And a 3, 2, 1.
Oh boy, so are we live? What is
Yes,
up,
sir.
everyone? Welcome back to Anime Speedrun Festival. I am Drakodan. This is going to be Astro Boy Omega Factor on Game Boy Advance. This is a nice little short, sweet, side-scrolling beat-em-up. It's a treasure beat-em-up, so if you've seen games like Gunstar Heroes, Alien Soldier, etc. before, then you'll kind of know what to expect with this game. You kill a lot of enemies, it's very colourful, very smooth, pretty fast, and some auto-scroller as well, but there's actually a fair bit of optimization in the auto-scrolls, just going from wave to wave as quickly as possible. So I am ready to begin if you guys are, and I can give a countdown whenever everyone is ready.
Sounds good.
Alright, so I'm going to get started in 3, 2, 1, and go. Okay, so Astro Boy Omega Factor. So Astro Boy is like the birth, haha, nice pun, of anime, essentially. Like one of the, proto-animes, if you will. And this is based on the more modern reboot. I think this was like actively from after the 2000s, the reboot, but I'd say the gameplay is just typical 2D side-scrolling beat-em-up stuff, where the golden rule of this game and progressing through this game is that you are essentially going from wave to wave of enemies, and you can only progress when the current wave of enemies is dead, and the game defines the current wave as being dead as when all the enemy corpses leave the screen. You'll see that when enemies die, they bounce around the screen in like pseudo-random patterns, so the wave doesn't end until they say leave the bottom of the screen or leave the side of the screen. So there is a little bit of randomness in how fast you can go in some spots, but it also means that in certain spots you can also speed up the rate at which you can cause the screen to unlock by boosting upwards so that enemies leave the screen from the bottom a few frames sooner. And we've already got our first upgrade point, so this is one of the integral parts of playing this game, is the upgrade system. The way you gain upgrade points in this game is Astro learning about people and their emotions and logging them in it's called the Omega Factor, the grid of characters and their personality alignments. Whenever you fully learn about an individual, you get a point to spend in your upgrade stats. And there's quite a wide variety of stats that you can upgrade in this game, like life, punching power, laser power, machine gun power, jets, etc. For the purpose of the run, we're going to be boosting exclusively the laser stat for the first half of the run. It is by far the most efficient stat to boost, as half of the game, well, half is maybe an exaggeration, but a significant portion of the game is spent in the auto-scrolling sections where you can only use the finger laser and the arm cannon. You can't use your hand-to-hand abilities. Therefore, punch is a dead stat in some of the sections of this game. And the super abilities, such as the arm cannon on R, are simply by far the highest DPS option you have available for boss encounters, which we'll see fairly shortly. We've already seen how fundamental movement is going to work for the most part in this game, where you can, run, and you can also use the jets to boost. Now, the jets are intended to be limited in usage, where when you are airborne, you can boost in one of 8 directions, during which time Astro is intangible and doesn't take damage from any source, so it's a very nice defensive tool as well. But if the stat isn't upgraded, you can only use it once before you run out of boosts, and you need to wait until you're grounded again to be able to do it again. But since your boosts refresh while you are grounded, effectively that means that if you don't leave the ground, you effectively have infinite boosts for the purpose of just pure left to right movement. So during the grounded sections, you're going to be staying on the ground as much as possible and just chaining boosts as efficiently as possible. Here is the first boss, and it's pretty much already over. Oh, well, okay. Okay, there we go. Got it on the way down. So you see there how the arm cannon, which is used on R, absolutely just shreds through bosses. It's by far the highest DPS option you have available, and we are playing on easy difficulty. It's the de facto normal difficulty that's used for this game, as the difficulty changes on normal are just that you only have access to 5 super attacks. You can see at the top center of the screen the amount of supers I have in reserve. Normal having only 5 in reserve is the main difference, as well as, things being a bit bulkier. Hard is an extremely hard and fundamentally very different category, where the focus is instead on surviving, as you only have 3 super attacks, which don't go very far in a lot of fights, and you die extremely quickly. So hard is much more about surviving and treating bosses as wars of attrition, whereas easy is pretty much about bursting bosses down as quickly as possible with super usage. And this is with the laser stat not being very highly upgraded by now. By the time it gets to a fully upgraded status, bosses just die extremely quickly to repeated arm cannon usage. And the second stat that will be upgraded towards the second half of the run is the shot stat, which is going to initially look like a strange choice because I'm like not going to use it at all, but come the end game it is very important. So this has been the first auto-scroll section. I mentioned that there are some of these as you go through the game. It follows the same rule as the grounded sections for progression though, that you need to finish the current enemy wave before you can start a following enemy wave. Now we have a mini-boss, the Artificial Sun. Phase 1, it has this loose tracking AI, which I'm just trying to lead it towards the middle to end the first phase, because it needs to go to the middle of the screen to start the second phase. That was not too bad, and now just going to be spamming arm cannons as it follows a scripted pattern. Going to use one more arm cannon here and then actually finish off with the finger laser. I did say that the arm cannon is the highest DPS option you have available, but you'll also see that every time you use an arm cannon, there's like a 2-second startup animation, which is unavoidable. So if it would take less than that time to finish off an enemy with a different form of damage, it's not faster to even use the arm cannon. And there's another mini-boss. This is already finished because 3 punches and then an arm cannon is going to finish that. We'll just progress on. I don't question half of the characters that you see in this game. It's best not to question what's going on generally speaking in this game. Like plot-wise, I'm not going to be explaining what's going on and like where we are and what we're doing for the most part because like we'd be here all day basically is what I'm saying. There's a lot that's going on. I can give a basic synopsis of like where we are and what's going on, but it's just going to lead to more questions than answers, and that is like a net that just keeps expanding as you go and explain more things. Like right now we're on like an island trying to recover some weapon that like a mafia like cell has hijacked. That was the Artificial Sun before, and now we're trying to see where it is hidden on this island. And then the next chapter is going to have a completely disconnected plot, and then the next chapter after that is going to have a completely disconnected plot from that, and it just keeps getting like exponentially more absurd as it goes along. It's an anime, like of course it does. You know what to expect like when it's an anime game, where you might not know the specifics of what to expect, but you know that it's going to be very strange. So here we have a hidden upgrade point. There are some upgrade points in this game where finding them is dependent on like interacting with specific parts of the background at specific times to reveal hidden characters. I didn't quite finish the enemies in time there to avoid a second bat spawning there. So this elevator screen is unique in that you need to kill a certain number of the bee enemies before the bat enemies stop spawning, and I just killed the first bat just too early. I didn't quite kill enough bees, so I had to deal with the second bat enemy. Not too bad though. So here we come to the second boss, the transforming robot Pook, who is always going to start the fight by cycling through the 4 different animal forms that he has, and by timing arm cannon correctly as the forms come in, I'm going to have enough damage to quickly one-cycle them without needing to use a second source of damage. It's important for me to not miss this one. That should be, yeah, that was first available frame to get the base skip. The fish goes underground and then swims around underground, which loses a lot of time because it's like semi-random. This lion is also a forced time loss every time it appears since it comes in with the green force field. But now, this last phase, I can just start early because the damage you need to finish the last phase is significantly less, so the timing is a lot more forgiving on that last cycle. And yeah, as you can see, with the arm cannon getting upgraded a lot, you just mash through bosses faster than you can really explain what's going on, and it makes it look extremely simple and like, well, what's the deal? This is like so easy. Like, this is a surprisingly easy game to like lose a lot of time on for no real apparent reason. This is a relatively like glitchless and straightforward game, but there's room for optimizing like 1,000 different ways for like fractions of a second. This is the sort of run where it's like death by 1,000 cuts when you're looking at where you're losing time. There's no like individual massive time losses where it's like, oh, I made a mistake and now I'm going to lose a minute. Like, nothing like that exists in this run, What you instead have are, I just made like 10 mistakes back to back, which each cost like a quarter of a second, so now I'm a few seconds behind. And that's like what this run is the entire way through. But it does mean that if you are the type to... One enemy left. If you are the type to like to pay attention to very small optimization factors, this is definitely the game for you. Go boost down, diagonal here, use 2 finger lasers to do these. So a little optimization here. Messed up a little there, can try again here. So those mechs take 6 hits to kill, and your punch combo is 3 punches followed by a kick to finish off. The kick transforms non-static enemies into projectiles which can hurt other enemies, but for enemies that take like 6 hits, like those snake heads, it is slightly better to manually cancel the punch combo and restart it by using a boost. Like after your 3rd punch, you want to interrupt the combo with a boost and then start a new combo out of the boost to begin a new combo. Doing 2 sets of 3 hits is very slightly faster than doing a full combo of 4 and then doing 2 more punches. Like, it's one of the things that I discovered when I was developing the tasks for this game, where like I started working on a task of this game because I wanted to like answer cases like, okay, we have these different ways that you can deal with waves like this. Like the aforementioned, do you do a full punch combo or do you interrupt a combo? I want to see which is like truly faster for an RTA sense and see the frame data on these options. And then I just ended up fully working on like a task for the full route of birth. So we've got this room which is covered in steam. Now you've got a couple of rooms like this. There was also the dark room in stage 2 where you can't see what's going on around you, and this is because I don't have any points in Astro's hypersensor stat. If you want to do like the full game, like the true ending of this game, you do actually need a minimal amount of hypersensor investment, but for the any % birth run, it's not necessary. Like there's no randomness in these rooms, it's just if you know where to go, you know where to go. There's also a very nice benefit here of getting the hidden upgrade point that I just got from Moon, where this specific enemy wave and the one at the top of the room, it's supposed to lag out the game very considerably. Like the game is supposed to be running at basically 50% speed through those enemy waves, but for whatever reason, if you get Moon's upgrade point, that lag just doesn't occur. I don't know why that happens, but it is nonetheless very convenient. And oh, nice. So that's another reason why it's nice to be able to run on easy difficulty in this game, that you get a lot more options when it comes to damage boosting. And some of them can be used for favorable setups on enemies, and some of them can be used for like pseudo like clips through geometry like that. What's it going to do here? 1, 2, 3. Finger laser, very slightly faster than finishing with a kick again. Boost cancel, 1, 2, 3, very slightly faster. Now, I tried to do a punch into arm cannon here just because the arm cannon after the punch resolves should finish slightly sooner, but in RTA terms, I'm probably not inputting precisely enough to actually get the time save from that. This is also pretty nice. Enemies that have like huge like energy-based attacks like that take up screen space, there seems to be some like selective intangibility where when you start Astro's arm cannon, you are intangible to those types of attacks. I don't fully understand how it works, but the TLDR in practice is that you can just ignore certain energy beam attacks like that by starting your own arm cannon. Like you can just sit inside Atlas's huge beam there and, you know, not get hit by it and just hit Atlas in return. And yeah, the boss is over already. So we were, in that stage, we were on the moon to, you know, investigate some disturbance. And now we're in the Antarctic, where there's like a conference for the first elected robot president of a nation, which is going to come under a terrorist attack from a human cell that fears like the encroaching robot scourge and doesn't want, you know, a robot in elected office. And then there's going to be like a nuclear tank heading towards this Antarctic conference. Like I say, don't try and actually follow what's going on in the story in this game. It's not worth it. Just the best thing to do with this game is just enjoy how pretty everything looks, and like, oh yeah, it's like there's cool enemy waves and such. Just like enjoy the ride. Just like turn your brain off, don't ask questions, and enjoy the ride. That's the best way to engage with this game, honestly. So this screen We've got the platforms on left and right. So this follows the same rule as every other wave in the game, in that my progress is determined by when the enemy corpses leave the screen. So the platforms are better to appear on the right, as they will exit the right-hand side of the screen pretty quickly. It's random which side they're on though, so you just want to see as few on the left as possible. If they are on the left, it's better for them to be near the bottom of the screen, as they will exit the bottom of the screen sooner than they will, like, you know, because on the left, they're always going to exit the bottom of the screen, so the lower they start, the faster they exit the screen, is what I'm trying to say. But if they're on the right, it's irrelevant how high they are, because they will always exit the right side before they go off the bottom of the screen. Now I'm going to see if I can land this. Okay, just about, yeah. So, those rotating spike balls, they have some moments where they are invulnerable to damage, like when they are in their actual spike ball form, and just about managed to get an earlier cycle on finishing them off there. There's going to be one more scripted wave here, where I'm going to, after these harmonies, yeah, I'm going to be alternating, going up and down for these little... I don't exactly know what to call these things. I think I've heard the term narwhals, but I'm not entirely sure why that term is used. But yeah, you alternate kind of going up and down, and then for the last couple, I stay for getting 2 of them at once, and that winds up being slightly faster. No way to speed up these spike balls, but then I'm going to get into a fixed position here to take a damage boost so that I can start this wave quickly. Didn't mean to take damage there, but that's fine. Going to take another planned damage boost here. So, again, the bottom enemy there is the last one to come on, so that wave ends when you kill the bottom enemy, and you can kill that bottom enemy very slightly sooner by starting damage as soon as possible. In other words, if you are in position for it to come into your finger laser, while you are still invulnerable, you don't take damage from it hitting you, so you start damaging it very slightly sooner. Using a strat here where I'm going to sit inside Caribs and use the selective intangibility from using the arm cannon after getting 1 bubble of the health bar down with the finger laser so that I can finish it off precisely. That essentially saves the time of flinching from taking damage 1 extra time, so it's like a second faster, something like that. Which, again, when basically everything in this game is managed or measured in like fractions of a second, having a strat that like just saves a full second, like that's pretty considerable, honestly. This wave is entirely random. You're going to have 3 sets of 6 enemies of different heights coming from different sides. This is pretty favorable though. I just want them all to be on the same side so that I can turn around and use an arm cannon. Useful in waves like this to be able to clear them out as well. Something I haven't like mentioned until now, but you exploit a lot in this game, is that since the boost turns Astro into an intangible object, like you'll become tangible again when the boost ends. You'll become a solid object. But Astro and an enemy can't occupy the same space, so when Astro becomes solid, and you're in the same space as an enemy, something has to move. And as long as you're against the border of the screen like this, very often it's the enemy that has to move. So you boost on the opposite side of an enemy, right at the screen border, you become solid again, and it forces the enemy into the middle of the screen, and you can then just turn around and use an arm cannon for a screen-wide attack to hit everything that's on screen at that current elevation. It's a very like consistent and easy trick to be able to deal with enemy waves all at once. So we come into, this is actually the final auto-scroller section of the game. Some will be pleased to hear. This is by far the most technical auto-scroller though. That wasn't too bad. Have a couple of platforms here. These platforms do have like pseudo-random movement. They kind of loosely track you and try and stay on roughly the same elevation as Astro, but it's not, you know, a exact science. This next wave that comes in here, it's actually not relevant how quickly I kill this wave. The following wave after this is going to start at a fixed point, and it's this wave here that actually matters how quickly I kill. So not too bad. These platforms, again, doesn't matter how quickly I kill these because it's these enemies here. So I managed to kill that last enemy before it exited the screen, which starts the next wave a little faster, but because you only really have the finger laser here, and they do fly in straight lines, you don't always have full control over whether you'll actually be able to get that last enemy. Like, it comes on at a random point. You are either going to be in a position where you can hit it or not, so it's not actually consistent whether you can get that time save. one more set of platforms. I'm going to try and bait them towards the bottom of the screen so that, again, they leave the screen sooner. But that one went off the bottom of the screen, so then I had to wait for it to come back up. Again, they loosely track your position, but it's not exact. Now we've got a little mini-boss here where I'm going to use an arm cannon to destroy these top two parts first, move down to destroy this last one, and then there's going to be a cannon that comes out and uses a couple of random attacks. This is the good one. So this attack is going to stay out long enough for me to chain a couple of arm cannons and just destroy it in one cycle. That's the best you can get. There's a few different attacks that thing can use, and some of them the cannon stays out barely any time at all and basically wastes time, forces you to use multiple cycles to take care of it there. Making sure the green enemy is finished off there, going to keep boosting. Your movement really matters on the top of the train there, as there is a constant wind effect that's pushing you back until you get inside the train. And now I'm going to try to... Okay, that should be fine. Yeah, it's sets of 6 enemies that come on here and try to hit you. And as you can see, there's a foreground layer that doesn't actually let you see which side the enemies are coming on from. For this set of green enemies though, I'm just going to let the first plasma hit me, and then, like, either or, and then boost to the side, use the same trick where I'm going to force enemies inwards, turn around. But the timing of, like, getting hit provides enough time for all 6 enemies to come on screen so that I don't, like, go early and get a nasty surprise from an enemy actually hitting me after it comes on screen. Because getting punched by those enemies, it's not a big deal in terms of, like, it will kill you. Like, nothing's especially dangerous in this category, but again, it's a million different ways to lose time, and if you get hit by an enemy there, Astro goes tumbling across the screen. You basically lose control of Astro for about 3 seconds. It's something you really don't want to deal with. That was a boss fight. That was Dead Cross. He's dead. Again, that was a completely unintentional pun. I'm sorry about that. So we're now at the point where we're, like, actually boosting the shot stat. Not going to be using it throughout this stage, though. This is stage 6 of 7, where now we're being transported, like, 10,000 years back in time to a prehistoric civilization. Again, don't ask questions. But we're not going to be using the shot in this stage. Saving the shot for the final stage, stage 7. This is also a very short stage, which makes it progress very quickly and smoothly. Just, again, turning around after these 2 enemies come on screen. Going to try the same thing here, but with these added enemies at the bottom. Thankfully, they decided not to put the shields up, which they can do, and they are actually impervious to all damage while the shield is up, and the only way to get them to drop the shield consistently is to, like, jump completely above them so that they, like, you know, have nothing to defend against, but it's very annoying when they do that. We have a couple of tiny enemies here, but they are still tough. Oh, we've also got something shielding. See, this is, like... What a jerk. That was, like, a few seconds lost just because they decided to put the shields up. Again, like, stuff like that you don't really have direct control over. Sometimes it just happens, and it's annoying. Gonna need it. Ooh. Okay, needed 3 more punches to take care of that purple enemy. Cool. Enemies are color-coded for their toughness and whether they'll flinch from your attacks. Like, red and purple enemies are the 2 toughest enemy classes, which don't flinch from your attacks, and they take a lot more firepower to destroy. So this is the only screen which really showcases, like, the only... I don't want to call it a glitch, but it's the only thing that resembles a glitch in this run, where when you boost horizontally up a diagonal slope, you end up going up the diagonal slope faster. Like, it's faster than actually boosting parallel to the slope. You just want to boost into the slope instead, and it will actually push you up the slope faster than normal, which is pretty nice. So we come to Sharaku here. This guy is the quote-unquote main antagonist of the game. Who's, like, you know, psychic warrior guy who is from this prehistoric civilization, wants to, like, take over the world, again, typical anime stuff. And then we beat him with a few arm cannons. Again, because with maximally min-maxed laser stats and using nothing but it, you just chew through enemies so fast in this game. So now we come back to the present, and we are in the final chapter. This is the world's strongest robots. So we come back to the present, and now we're in an alternate timeline where war has broken out between humans and robots. Like, all the rhetoric that people were saying about, like, you know, oh, robots are dangerous, we're not going to stand for this, etc. Like, it's actually happened, and now the world is effectively ending because humans and robots are just trying to destroy each other. So Astro's like, nah, we're not going to do that. And the only way we can stop this is by going through the group of the world's strongest robots. That was the versatile robot North. Now we come to the invisible robot Denko, who, if I do this correctly, is not going to get to become invisible. Going to use an arm cannon and very quickly use a shot before he disappears. So the utility of the shot is that the more it's upgraded, the higher the stun time is. Like, enemies that are afflicted by shot they become stunned and can't act for a certain amount of time. And since it's now almost fully upgraded, I'm going to be able to start using this as a pseudo stun lock. So for enemies that have certain patterns, like Denko, who's supposed to disappear there, or Brontus, who only has brief periods of vulnerability when the core is out here, at this point I'm going to be able to use 2 arm cannons for every shot. Like, I'm now going to need to use a shot to reset the stun time. And I'm going to be able to just pseudo stun lock Brontus here and finish him off before his vulnerability phase ends here. There's 2 more arm cannons to finish up here now. We've only got 2 more fights in the game now. We're going to have the aquatic robot Epsilon and the world's strongest robot Pluto. Whoops, no, not jets. I want shot. Thank you. Ooh, I was still in the right position there as well. Yeah, you want to be in dead center there at the end of each of these so that Astro doesn't need to move into position to teleport up. I'm going to start this fight with a shot rather than a arm cannon so that I can see what action Epsilon's starting with. It's dictated by which arm he raises. He's raising the right arm, which means he's summoning an animal, so I'm just going to go for a quick kill here and hope that I'm... Okay, that's good. There's 3 different attacks that you can use there, and the whale that comes across the screen is the one you don't want to see, as that causes Astro to flinch even if you kill Epsilon first, loses like 3 seconds for no reason. However, we're onto the world's strongest robot. So this is Pluto. Definitely like the strongest enemy in the game, by far the bulkiest enemy in the game. And it's going to take a lot of arm cannon spam to take this guy down. I'm going to be selective about when I use the shot, because I only want to use it if he's readying a very laggy attack, which this attack thankfully is not. This one isn't also. I'm just going to jump, get some more airtime. And time is going to... Oh, I completely missed with that attack, lol. Time is going to be when Pluto, when his health bar reaches 0. So it's going to be not too long, and I'm going to call it out when it happens just now. It's going to be in 4 more, like... This is basically 3... Oh, I'm going to get hit here, though. That was really bad judgment on my part, and now I definitely need to use another machine gun to block this plasma attack. But on the next arm cannon, this is going to be time. And time. And then you can, you know, go through the last set of bonuses, get 1 more upgrade point for Pluto, put it in, like, there's more plot exposition where the end of the world does actually happen, and yeah, the world has actually ended. So, bad end. Didn't save the world. Everyone died, including Astro. And then you get brought back to life after the credits, and then you have to go through New Game Plus, which is like, okay, here's the entire set of stages, and this is like the entire timeline. Now figure out what went wrong and like reset the timeline and get a good ending. And it's, again, don't ask questions with Omega Factor, just enjoy the game. And I mean that in a literal sense. This is a very good game, which I highly recommend that like everyone try out if you enjoy like good old-fashioned beat-em-up games. This is really, really good. And if you think that you are a certified gamer, try and play this game on hard mode. All I'll say is this is one of the games where hard mode definitely deserves the difficulty rating. Hard is extremely hard in this game. Will I ever do a marathon run of it? I hope not. Maybe, we'll see. Never say never, but I don't particularly want to try and get good at that. It's very difficult. But yeah, thank you very much, ASF, for having me. Hopefully you guys had a nice show with this run. And I'll leave you guys to get set up for the next run. So thanks very much everyone for joining, and I'll catch you guys later.